John was waiting for a ride on the side of the road, and he didn't want to walk back to his house. A luxurious convertible sports car stopped in front of them. The man in sunglasses sitting inside turned his head and whistled, like a playboy teasing a girl. "Hey girl, get in the car and talk? I wouldn't mind taking your car apart, Stark." John smiled and drew his wand. "This is my new car. Okay, come up and talk." Tony had no choice but to surrender. He had some psychological trauma about the little stick. After looking around, John decided to get in the car. Sitting in the passenger seat, John complained, "Can't you get a car with 4 seats? You're not a little girl, I'm not going to eat you." Tony also complained, "What's this weird habit of yours? Are you not used to sitting in the front?" "I just don't like sitting next to other people." John fastened his seatbelt and said, "Shut up, god of cars." Tony made a zipper and shut up gesture and stepped on the accelerator to quickly leave the area. The surrounding scenery quickly receded, but it was not the route back to John's house. "Did Ivan Vanko make the new Iron Soldier for you?" Tony said while driving. "You should know that he has a criminal record." "Indeed, but don't worry, he's not that stupid," John said casually. "It would be boring if he used the same trick again." "That's not necessarily true." Tony remained non-committal. "You're aware of the palladium poisoning. There's no way to change this. This means the subsequent Iron Soldiers will be thrown into a bottomless pit." As a victim of palladium, Tony was well aware of the reactor's flaws. That thing limits the reactor upper limit. So when he learned that the military and hammer industries were continuing to place orders, he knew who was involved. But he is not afraid. If he just stays where he is, then the next time Ivan sees himself, he will still fail. "You're so arrogant, Stark." John looked at the villa that appeared before him and said lightly, "Have you forgotten that I saved you?" Tony thought of the purple flakes and stepped on the accelerator. The garage door opened and he drove straight in and stopped with a drift. "You gave that thing to Ivan?" He stared at John. "Aren't you afraid he might come up with something even more terrifying?" "Pressure brings motivation, Iron Man." John opened the car door and got out. "Aren't you also doing research?" He walked towards the villa. "Welcome, John Wick." The door opened and Jarvis' voice rang out. John exclaimed in amazement, "This butler is really likable." "Thank you for the compliment." Jarvis was so humane that he seemed like a real person. Tony walked in from behind, looking unhappy. "I say, you should at least be surprised." "Really?" John waved his wand, and a bottle of drink flew over and landed in his hand. He raised an eyebrow and asked, "You think I need it?" "Well, compared to magic, the exaggeration of the smart butler doesn't seem to be that shocking." Tony took the drink from John. "Aren't you curious why I brought you here?" "It's not a life-threatening matter anyway." John raised his hand, the bottle of drink returned to his hand, and he opened it and took a sip. "If you plan to kill me here, I can only laugh at your incompetence on your grave." "I won't and don't want to kill you." Tony said unhappily, "I'm here to settle a score. I don't remember owing you money." John said to Jarvis, "Turn on the TV, Jarvis." The TV was on, playing an entertainment program. "No, don't turn on the TV, Jarvis." Tony did the opposite and sat down aside. "Your employee assassinated me. Isn't this a settlement?" "If you say so, then how about your assassination of me?" John sneered, "I haven't seen you compensate me in any way. And you caused damage to my eyes. I haven't called the police yet, and a naked man broke into my house." Tony had a dark face. No one likes dark history. He took a deep breath to suppress the guy's bad temper. "I need you to help me with something. Use your magic." "That's not the way you approach someone asking for help," John said, raising his eyebrows and casually sitting on the sofa. "You should show your sincerity." "Okay, how much is it?" Tony chose the easiest way, spending money. "This should be okay, right?" "You're not." John asked in surprise. "You're talking about money with someone who just signed a multi-billion-dollar order with the military and owns 2 arms companies?" He looked surprised, as if he had seen someone running naked. That expression hurt Tony deeply. Damn, one day Tony Stark was shown off his financial strength. Tony's forehead veins were throbbing. When it comes to the tens of billions level, the difference between hundreds of billions and tens of billions is actually not that big. Anything that can be obtained with hundreds of billions can also be obtained with tens of billions. So he gritted his teeth and said, "What do you want?" "Let me think." John looked over Tony. "Except for your armor, there doesn't seem to be anything worthy of my interest." "Impossible." Tony refused decisively. He would not hand over the armor because the impact it could cause was too great. I know what you want, John said calmly, stroking the ring without any hurry. You want more magic crystals. I can satisfy you on this point, but you must pay the same price. Magic crystal? Tony really wanted to study the purple flakes. That thing can even replace palladium to operate reactors, which shows how precious it is. Besides the armor, Tony said after a pause, what else do you like? For the first time, he felt so helpless. There were things that even a billionaire couldn't solve. John thought for a moment, then stood up and began to circle around Tony, seemingly considering the value he possessed. When Tony couldn't stand the evaluating look anymore, he stopped. I'm very interested in Jarvis. How about you give me an AI of the same level? Tony pondered for a moment. Okay, I can give you one. As long as it doesn't involve Jarvis, everything is fine. Tony's area of expertise is actually somewhat different from Ivan's. At least when Ivan was typing the program word by word, Tony had already completed the creation of Jarvis-level artificial intelligence. On the internet, Tony is the top one. Seeing that he agreed, John took out a card without hesitation. What's this? Don't you want the magic crystal? John smiled, revealing a businessman's aura. You can get it here. Tony took the card and said, so you're telling me this isn't your exclusive property? It's my exclusive property, John said matter-of-factly, but there's no rule that I have to make it. They can deliver to your door. Pointing to the number above, John smiled and said, we accept US dollar payments. In the end, you still have to spend money. Where is your previous spirit of not wanting money? Tony felt his fists harden, but he couldn't beat the opponent. It's so tiring to put on the armor and then take it off again. By the way, can I drive one of your cars? John saw that he had nothing else to do, so he went to the door and looked at the luxury cars. Tony smiled and said, no. How dare a person who blows up a car while riding in it make this request to me? In the end, John didn't take a car from Tony. He complained bitterly about this. I don't know what the point of letting me go is. Apparat home from Stark Villa. John did not forget to continue upgrading his gloves. He fused a piece of URU metal last time, and this time he wants to fuse a second piece. Silver covered the palm, grabbing the URU metal and absorbing it. The URU metal gradually melted, and the silver layer turned into silk threads, intertwining with the limited gloves. This is the most delicate thing. Each one is so tiny that it requires a microscope to view. Combined and intertwined with each other, they form a new finite glove. As the sky turned from dark to light, the finite gloves completed the fusion. John raised his right hand, and the gem on the back of his hand shone brightly. He clenched his fist, and a wave of force caused the coffee machine in front of him to disintegrate and reassemble. With another push on the wall and on the ground, the horizontal and vertical traces instantly separated into a grid. In just a moment, the surroundings healed again. There's no way you could tell the house had just been taken apart. John stroked his chin and looked at the 3 eavesdropping devices floating in the air, lost in thought. S.H.I.E.L.D. also likes to eavesdrop? But when did S.H.I.E.L.D. start using this trick? John picked up one of them and began to read it. Could it be that Natasha was pretending? This little girl still makes me worry even after she left. Crushing the bug casually, John looked at the sky which had brightened and then began to darken. And so the day went by. He wasn't sleepy, or rather, he had too much energy. John casually swept the shattered bug into the trash can and thought about what to do today. To be honest, drinking tea for half a month seems a bit too ordinary. Forget it, let's go find Matt. There was still one guy in Hell's Kitchen that hadn't been dealt with, and John decided to go see how to get rid of him first. The driver was on holiday, so John had to go there himself. Hell's Kitchen during the day isn't so destitute that no one dares to go there. Sitting in a taxi, John saw the car behind him again. These people are really haunting. The taxi made its way to Hell's Kitchen and stopped. John closed the car door and did not go to Matt's law firm immediately. Instead, he went to the car parked behind and knocked on the window. The car window rolled down, revealing Lay's embarrassed face. If you have nothing to do, why not go find Fisk? John smiled and said, this is my news to you. Fisk. Lay was stunned and saw John turned and walked into the law firm of Nelson Murdoch. Lay hesitated for a moment, feeling that he needed to pay attention to who he was talking about. Dax, who was standing next to him, had a gloomy expression on his face, and there was a struggle between madness and reason in his eyes. John didn't care that the FBI was following him, just like his father was often followed before, he was used to it. Today's law firms seemed to be on a mission. As John came in, he bumped into 2 people who were about to leave. Hey, Matt, Fudge, my lawyer friends, John said exaggeratedly. Do you know I'm bored right now and want to take me to find something exciting? Fudge was confused. We didn't. Okay, it's happily settled. John put his hand on Fudge's shoulder. You can drive, right? Matt was helpless. He had just listened carefully to John's heartbeat, but still couldn't hear anything. This was strange. The people in the car last time couldn't hear their heartbeats either, but it was a little different from John's. Those people seemed to do it on purpose, but John seemed to be born into it. The three men walked out of the office. John glanced at the FBI car. Ray had left and only Dex was left. Matt also noticed Dax and said, "Is that the agent from last time?" "Yes, they're afraid I'm going to die," John said with a smile. "Actually, I'm quite afraid of death too." They got in Fudge's car and set off. "Aren't you going to have tea?" "Drinking tea all the time is too boring." John sat in the back seat, chatting with Matt. "Where's that guy? Did you check on him?" "Wilson Fisk, he's a businessman. This is the information I was able to find." "You should start somewhere else." The two men were like riddlers, saying things that Fudge couldn't understand, which distracted him while driving. After nearly colliding with the oncoming car, Fudge didn't dare to be distracted. "Where are you going?" "There is a poor girl waiting for the justice of our law," said Fudge. "We are going to the police station." "Fudge, you talk too much to him," Matt reminded Fudge. Fudge came to his senses and almost mistook John for his law firm partner. The car stopped at the police station and they wanted to go in. John went in with them in a dignified manner. Just like what Fudge said, a poor girl who looked like a bean sprout. John didn't know why he described it that way, but that's what Fudge said. After learning more about it, they finally knew what the woman named Peggy had done. She was the only suspect at a murder scene, and she was the one who was caught red-handed. He is an employee of United Construction Company and is suspected of killing Daniel Fisher, who works for the same company. United Construction Company? John narrowed his eyes at the name. What a coincidence, the bastard I was looking for was from the United Company. The girl cried and told the lawyer that she was innocent. John looked into the other person's eyes and he was sure that the other person was not lying. Matt also discovered this through his heartbeat. So he chose to believe this seemingly innocent woman. But for now, the woman is still the prime suspect in a murder case and cannot be released on bail for the time being. After the routine questioning, Matt and Fudge prepared to leave. "Please, you must believe me." Peggy once again made everyone believe her. John walked out of the police station, and Fudge wanted to build a good relationship with the police. "I happened to meet an acquaintance. Agent Dykes, don't tell me you're going to protect me in the police station." John saw the man appear, and at the same time saw the growing madness and the struggle between reason. "I want to talk to you." After hesitating for a long time, Dex chose to say it. "I will wait for you at the place you often go tonight. It seems you've been spying on me for more than just today." John shrugged. "It's a fun idea. I can agree to it." Dax, feeling somewhat uneasy, nodded and left. Matt frowned and warned John, "That man is not simple." "I can see that," John said with a smile, "so I want to see what game he wants to play with me." "You know, John," Matt said, turning so his sunglasses met John's eyes, "you always seem to be talking about games. My vacation always has to have some entertainment." John suppressed his smile. "That's what makes it fun." "I can't see you clearly anymore." Matt said that and then heard Fudge's summons to leave. John also walked over. "Can't you see clearly?" he muttered to himself. Back to the law firm. John listened to the two lawyers analyzing the case, and it had to be said that it was quite boring. The discussion mainly focused on whether Peggy was really guilty. Matt thinks Peggy may be innocent, while Fudge wants to change the second-degree murder case to manslaughter so that Peggy can be sentenced to 5 to 10 years. They had a lively discussion, and John sipped his coffee with gusto. "She may not have killed anyone, Matt." Fudge thought of something, but Miss Peggy may not have lied. This inference also woke Matt up. Yes, he only heard that the other party did not kill anyone, but it did not mean that the other party would not conceal anything in his testimony. Both sides found this blind spot. John raised his hand. "What's the matter, Mr. Wick?" Fudge still respected this financial sponsor. John reminded, "Do you think that since one person has already been killed, will the person behind the scenes kill another?" Fudge was stunned. "What do you mean?" John opened his pocket watch and glanced at it. "Nothing much, I just need to tell you that my time is up. Matt, if you have any news, you can call me." John chuckled. "After all, you are my lawyer. I don't mind giving you a little help." Matt said, "Do you need someone to take you there?" No, I don't need that. John put on his coat. I'd rather someone do something to me. He got up and left. Fudge was still pondering what John had just said. Walking out of the law firm, John waved his wand and appeared at the yellow sign. He stepped inside and saw a man with thin cheeks waiting inside. Agent Dykes. Your friend? After entering the house, the uncle in the corner asked. His eyes locked on Dax, who was sitting there. He could see that this man had a unique temperament and some of the scent of a madman. To John's friend, whose name he didn't know, the uncle reminded him, he seems to need a doctor. I think so too. John smiled at the uncle and went straight to sit down opposite Dex. Dykes was a young man wearing a suit and a white shirt, with stubble on his face and bloodshot eyes. He looked like he had been suffering from insomnia for some time. He watched John sit down, his mind racing with thoughts of his own failures. He was a gifted person since childhood. He has an excellent talent for pitching and can always throw objects accurately to where he wants them to go. As a child, he was appreciated by the coach and joined the baseball team. No one could hit the ball he threw. But the coach never thought that this child, whom he regarded as the future savior, would be a demon on earth. Dax has destructive tendencies and is a psychopath. The monster that had existed since childhood transformed into negative emotions, driving him again and again. During a game, the coach substituted him to give more players opportunities. This angered Dykes, who used his best pitching skills, a baseball, to kill the coach. He subsequently received treatment, but the therapist did not give up on this terrible patient. Reshape his compassion and make him start to become normal. Everything is getting better. Until that day, his seriously ill therapist prescribed him a bottle of wine and told him that he was about to die. At that moment, Dax was sad. But he hated the therapist's betrayal even more, leaving him to die. The therapist treated him as a child, enlightened him, and let him take medication to become a normal person. Death always wins, Dax. The therapist was not angry at his murderous intent, but instead guided the lost child. Find someone you can trust. Your inner compass isn't broken, Dax. It will be more effective if you have a North Star to guide you. The therapist was still guiding the child at the end, at the last moment of life. At the same time, it also made Dex feel the love that he never felt from his parents. He cried that day and began to follow his therapist's advice to find his own North Star. His heart longs for evil and destruction. In his last job, he found the North Star. She was a girl named Julie. She was as warm as sunshine, driving away the chill of the early morning. But such days will not last long after all. He didn't have the courage to approach and talk to her, but he stalked the girl named Julie like a pervert. This dark dependence is like a maggot in a sewer, clinging to a dead body. He thought he would continue like this. The man appeared and took the ring from her without hesitation. It was frustration, a nauseating, stomach-exploding feeling. He wants to kill someone. Those were the words that kept shouting in my head. His dark side and rationality intertwined, fighting for the right to use this body. When they met for the second time, all he could think about was how to kill the person he was supposed to protect. It was at this moment that John provoked him again. The last time was for the ring, the second time for the gold coins. His self-esteem and achievements were trampled upon. People who have lost everything, lost their families and therapists. He would not allow the talent that had always been with him to be humiliated. So he asked John out. In the pocket, there is a pin. Dax can use his talent for being humiliated to use the pin to end his opponent's life. There is a found nail in the right pocket. That was simply amazing, killing the opponent with a nail from the eyeball to the brain without leaving any trace. And more. Weapons carried by FBI agents. Just pull the trigger lightly and you can kill the person on the other side like crushing an ant. Marvelous. Just imagining it made Dex's face covered with excitement. Forks, cups and plates on the table. Toothpicks, the book in the black man's hand, and stones on the roadside. The whore's keys, the boss's ring. Anything that can be thrown is a deadly weapon. Dax wants to kill the guy across from him. I want it so much. Madness took over his mind and he dug his fingers into his palms. Pain stimulates the brain and arouses bloodlust. Come on, let me kill you. Regardless. Don't think about anything. Come on. His hands had moved to his pockets. Pins that can reflect your outstanding talent. Just like when he hit the coach to death with a baseball. What a wonderful feeling. The finger touched the pin. Dax smiled at John. He grabbed the pin. Prepare. Want to play a game? The voice interrupted his frantic thoughts, and Dax's smile froze. What? John placed his hand on the table and slowly pushed out a gold coin. Golden so dazzling. John shrugged nonchalantly. It's not your first time playing, is it? Seeing the gold coins, Dax felt humiliated and unwilling. He wanted to kill John, but his hand slowly slipped away from the pin. Play again. He said this and also said it to himself. John's lips curled up into a smile as he picked up the gold coin between two fingers. We need to raise the stakes this time. He twirled the gold coin between his fingers. How about destroying a tape for every round you lose? What are you? Dax suddenly looked up. Before his death, his therapist left him a number of tapes to use in therapy before he went off the rails. That was what he valued most, as important as the North Star. And I lose. John's smile became even more devilish. You can put your right hand in your pocket, take out that pin, and throw it at me. You're pretty good at this, aren't you? John seemed to see through everything. Under legitimacy, he could clearly feel the malice. His eyes reflected Dax's face, revealing it completely. You need to learn exchange, Agent Dax. The gold coin stopped spinning and John snapped his fingers. The gold flickered in the light and slowly flew up. Exchange what you have for what I have. The voice fell. Crossed hands clenched into fists. There was madness in Dax's eyes and calmness in John's. Slowly opening his palm, Dax's eyes turned red, and there was nothing in his hand. John slowly opened his palm, and the gold coin lay there quietly. Do you want to continue? John asked. Continue. Dax seemed to be going crazy at this moment. The gold coin was tossed up again. He tried again and failed. Throw it up again and fail again. In this restaurant he has forgotten everything. The madness in his heart became more violent, but time and time again he had no chance to pull out the pin. Failure, failure, and failure. The gold coin would never stay in his hand. Again! He growled like a wild animal. John didn't throw it, but looked at him calmly. Do you still have a chance? Dax. His words suddenly woke Dex. He stared blankly at his right hand, which had defeated him countless times. One failure, one tape destroyed. He has run out of good medicine. He was gasping for breath, his face was grim, he covered his head with his hands, and his body was shaking. John spoke again cruelly. What have you got to lose, Dax? Dax was stuck in the mud. He struggled and watched the man in front of him burn his lifeline. No more. Dax gasped for breath, sweat running down his cheeks. His face was pale and he seemed to be having trouble breathing. He needs to go to the hospital. The boss, Jack, was afraid that this man would die in his store. John raised his hand, motioning for Jack to be quiet. He'll be fine, he just needs guidance. John saw that the uncle had stood up. As long as Dax makes any unusual movement, the uncle will knock the FBI agent down within 7 seconds. And Dex was trapped in his own nightmare. The craziest people are those who have nothing. The thought of killing ravaged his body. Repeated failures left him with no strength left. He is self-destructing. He needs redemption. He needed Julie. Julie won't come. John could see through his heart and said lightly, You knew it. You should have known it when you followed her like a pervert. She's not your North Star. She doesn't belong to you. No, Dax said frantically. She's mine, she's so kind. That's mercy on you, Dax. John tossed the gold coin up again, and Dax stretched out his hand with difficulty. How about we bet on the North Star? He is a demon who destroys all the good that Healer Dax has built for him. Do you want to gamble? Dax reached out, trying to make contact. The gold fell. It's close to the palm of your hand. Going to catch him? Dax's face turned red as if by magic. Everything in front of his eyes slowed down. Each finger felt as heavy as moving Mount Tai. Together, you win. Dax screamed inwardly. It's almost successful. His fingers were closing. Complete the bet and kill that guy. He smiled as if he saw everything. Through the closing gap, he saw a hand approaching. No. He is crazy. My brain is shaking. I tried to close my fingers, but my body was too heavy. He could only watch helplessly as 2 fingers passed through the gap that was about to close. Take the gold coin from your hand. The devil's voice sounded again. Right now, you have no North Star. The gold coin touched the table lightly, and the color on Dax's face faded. He couldn't breathe and his heart was in pain. He lost again. He didn't know when he had fallen into a situation where he could only abide by the bet. He lost everything in this gamble. His eyes gradually lost their luster and his body slumped against the back of the chair. At this moment, the only person he could kill was himself. All the lights dimmed. Dax remembered he had a gun with him. He no longer wanted to kill John, he wanted to end his own life. People who have lost everything cannot show their true face to others when they live in the world. It's so painful, he thought, reaching his hand to his lower back. The black uncle's eyes became sharp and he started walking towards him. His fingers touched the pistol. He wants to end his life. Just as I was about to take action, I felt a chill on my forehead. A ray of golden light pierced his gloomy world. His eyes widened. The gold coin that made him lose everything is now stuck to his forehead. A finger held it up to prevent it from falling. Since we've lost the North Star, let's look for something brighter. John's voice rang out. How about the sun? There was more color in his pupils, and he stared blankly at John, letting go of his hand. The gold coins slid down his forehead and fell into his chest pocket. Why? Dax asked in confusion. This person clearly knows what he wants to do. It's just a game, there has to be a big boss. John chuckled. Just think of me as that big boss. Dax didn't know that the person he was facing was the Witch King of the magical world. And flowing in his body is the unknown blood of a wizard. He is a squib. A squib obscurial? John pondered. An obscurial, unable to gain magical power, has become a darkness within him. Even if he struggles, he cannot find light. Dax is special, he is supposed to be of wizard blood, but he is a squib. And obscurity grows on people who don't have magic. That's cruel. It is also cruel to a Momoran. In a cage without magic, evil can only breed wildly. Those thoughts of Dex were the result of Momoran's negative thoughts. It became an extremely painful condition, but it also brought Dykes some unexpected benefits. That unique throwing talent and unusual physical fitness. John destroyed everything of Dax, but as the king of wizards, even a squib should bask in his glory. Dax pulled the gold coin from his pocket. Sun. It's not just the North Star that can guide us. And the sun. He silently clenched the gold coin, and the pattern of the gold coin was imprinted on the palm of his hand. The black uncle saw that everything was settled and ultimately did not take action. His friend destroyed the crumbling house and re-injected faith and foundation into it. Cruel and kind. He looked at Dex deeply, said goodbye to his boss and left. Dax didn't notice him leaving. There are too few opportunities to be yourself in this world. If he stayed with that person, maybe Dax would be able to see something different. Dykes sat in the store until it was almost closing time. He stood up and left the store, heading towards the bar where Julie works. He was outside the bar, quietly watching the woman who treated everyone gently. The calmness and excitement I had felt in the past were now indifferent. He understood that he had lost the North Star. Throwing away the rope of salvation, he needs to follow the shadow of the sun to guide the direction. John was kidnapped on the way, or taken away. He sat in his Rolls-Royce with his arms crossed on his knees. The old man opposite was holding a glass of whiskey and shaking it slowly. So the judge you mentioned wants me to cancel the bounty? John understood the whole story and smiled silently. Maybe this strikes you as ironic, Winston sighed, but there are always people who tamper with the rules of the game. Mr. Wick. He knew John's true identity and also knew whose son John was. There are always privileges at the high table, Winston said. That's not a good rule of the game, John shrugged. How about this? You tell me who's trying to assassinate my father, and I'll go kill that person. And then you continue to be your manager. John smiled and said, Don't worry, I will do it quickly and efficiently. Such an attitude made Winston speechless. Your father is not like you. That's not how the game works. The Rolls-Royce stopped and Winston opened the door and got out first. He made an inviting gesture to John. The rules your father established are difficult to rebuild once they are broken. I respect your father, he's a great man. After hearing Winston say this, John also gave him some face. Walk into the hotel. In the hotel's uppermost garden, the female judge sipped champagne as she waited for John to arrive. As the initiator of this entire underground alliance and the founder of the hotel, the son of the underground president should be treated with caution. The arbiter has made her bet, supporting another man in the hope of replacing the underground president. Then this son needs to be punished. Here's the man. You can talk to him, Winston said, bringing John over with a warning in his words. But I need to warn you, ma'am. No work is allowed in mainland hotels. I'll report on your progress, Winston. The female judge didn't take Winston seriously. You can leave now. Winston looked at John one last time, nodded, and left. John sat carelessly on the sofa opposite the woman and casually glanced at the wine and snacks on the table. You're breaking hotel protocol, John Wick. The female judge said in a businesslike tone, You violated the hotel's reward policy. So, John looked at his fingernails. I don't think there's anything wrong. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. We need you to cancel the bounty, the woman said, pulling out a thick record book and setting it down. It's good for you, and it will also help maintain everything your father worked so hard to build. Oh. John glanced at the record book. The bottom entry was the bounty issued by John. How about this? He sat up straight, leaning forward slightly, and said jokingly, tell me who asked you to cancel the bounty, and I will cancel it. Mr. Wick, the female judge said calmly, not buying into this. Don't let your father's efforts go to waste. You keep talking about my father, John sneered, but do you deserve it? I hope you won't make a mistake. A hint of murderous intent flashed in the eyes of the female judge. John took out his pocket watch and glanced at it. Cancel the reward? He put down his pocket watch, revealing his sharp white teeth, and said, it's too late. The female judge frowned. Just then Winston pushed the door open. Surprise still lingered on his face as he said to the female judge, unfortunate news, the leader of the 10 Rings gang has died. This reward has ended. He walked over and took the record book, pretending to be regretful, and said, we can't let those who complete the reward go without money. The female judge turned to look at John. What did you do? Nothing. John said innocently, just a poor guy who was threatened. In a war-torn area. There was chaotic escape all around. The leader of the 10 Rings gang had a bullet hole in his heart and a bullet hole in his head. The strange thing was that the wound went straight through. A man picked at the dead bodies and finally took out an axe. Slowly walked to the body of the leader of the 10 Commandments gang. The knife fell with a loud swoop. A head rolled off. He wrapped it up in a piece of cloth and walked outside. My own child is still caring and knows that my uncle has no money. The news reached New York. A reward of $120 million was taken down. The killers were in an uproar. You know, that was the biggest bounty they had ever encountered. Directly create a billionaire. John looked at the female judge with a half-smile. Why don't you turn from evil to good now? Maybe you won't look so ridiculous. The female judge looked grim. She had come all the way here to resolve this matter, but ended up losing as soon as they met. John stood up and put his pocket watch away. I'll give you one chance, Miss Judge, he said with a smile. Tell me, who is it? The female judge snorted coldly and turned away. She is really stubborn. Could it be her mistress? John muttered to himself while touching his chin. Winston didn't know what to say when he heard that. This guy is really not afraid of offending people. Let me ask you, what would you do if that guy wanted to kill me just now? John looked at Winston. He noticed from the beginning that this person seemed to be on his father's side. Winston sighed. Then I can only mobilize all my strength. A wise choice. John praised, turned around and got on the elevator. By the way, tell that person that the game is still going on. The elevator door closed. There are more rainy days. The rainy scene in New York City has a unique flavor. There was also a turning point in the case of Miss Peggy, who was involved in the murder. An attempt on her life is made inside the police station, giving Matt and Fudge an opportunity to free Peggy. Matt also played a trick. Knowing that Peggy was hiding something from him and others, he took advantage of the situation and transformed himself into Daredevil to follow Peggy home. Successfully saved Peggy before she was killed by the killer. It turns out that Peggy left behind a piece of evidence of a pension crime at the United Construction Company, which is why the other party wanted to kill her. Fortunately, Matt acted in time, fought with the killer in the rainy night, successfully rescued Peggy and cleared her name. When John came to the law firm again, there were 3 people inside instead of 2. The scandal of United Construction Company was exposed. To thank Matt and his friend, Peggy made food based on her grandmother's recipes for them. Mr. Wick. Fudge saw John and smiled at his sponsor. You are late. We have solved the case and enjoyed delicious food. He seemed very proud. After all, this was one of the few cases that could make him famous, apart from the John incident. More importantly, the law firm will have a beautiful and attractive assistant. How does it taste? John asked when he saw them eating. Fudge responded, Oh, would you like to eat with me, Mr. Wick? No, I'm just curious about the smell. John took off his coat and found a place to hang it up. I've been having a lot of things lately. I think I should ask a lawyer for help. Wait, Peggy said, confused. She looked at John. Aren't you 2 together? Matt said, to be precise, John is our client. The last time John, Matt, and the others showed up at the police station together, Peggy thought the 3 of them were lawyers. John sat down and said with a smile, I guess Miss Peggy has some complaints about the United Company. No, I didn't. Peggy was about to retort. John waved his hand and said, I want to investigate the joint company. It's an invitation to play a game. I wonder if you want to join. Fudge stopped eating and looked at Matt, who also stopped eating. Investigate the joint company? Is it too exciting? They are just a small law firm. But John's expression didn't seem like he was joking. This is serious. Taran Industries has Ivan's help, which is no less than the assistance of multiple Iron Men. Regarding the manufacture of reactors, a prototype has already been developed. At the same time, improvements to weapons have not stopped. Taran Industries is a civilian weapons manufacturer on the surface, but in fact they are a supplier of killer weapons exclusively for the hotel. The difference between killer combat and battlefield combat has made them more sophisticated in gun manufacturing technology. Ivan drank vodka and turned the screws again and again with a big wrench. Various strange machines were connected to the destroyer, and several scrapped cutters were thrown aside. He relies on vodka to keep himself awake. Nobel waved to me. He muttered, squashing the empty bottle of vodka and throwing it away. I could have done it, Father. It could have been for you. For all of us. No, Loki. Each sentence was shouted at the top of his lungs, each sentence longing for recognition. Rocky once dreamed of that scene and saw the heartache and disappointment in his father's eyes. It was obvious that she was willing to destroy her original tribe for him. He just wanted to be recognized as Odin's son and the Prince of Asgard. But his father still hurt him. So he chose to let go. Falling from the rainbow bridge into the endless void. Loki opened his eyes and found himself in a temple. That is the place that belongs to a cosmic overlord. And he has a mission. Head to that blue planet. Bring the army and rule them. A figure flashed through his mind. Maybe I need to get more power. That guy. The guy who damaged the destroyer. Loki's mind flashed with Laufey's words about the core of the icebox. He raised his hands and waved them in front of him. The icebox appeared in his hand. Release your grip and let it fall. With a wave of his left hand, a short blade appeared in his palm. Loki cut his right hand hard, and the pain made his face look a little grim. Blood flowed down the blade and dripped onto the icebox. Feel the royal blood of the frost giants. A blue light appeared on the azure icebox. The ray of light turned into a beam of light, flew into the deep space of the universe, and landed on the blue planet with subtle guidance. When Loki saw this, he picked up the icebox. Laufey's words echoed in my mind. The ability to freeze everything, the ancient winter coffin. John was now living up to his idea of a vacation. Both companies offered different tours each day starting in New York, Queens. John was holding a croissant he had bought in Brooklyn. He was eating bread and holding a glass of milk in his hand. He looked like a young aristocrat enjoying afternoon tea on the streets of Paris. Hammer Industries is located in Queens, and John's extreme enjoyment behavior was very confusing to the management. Yuri Orlov, who was only a few more nights away from going bald, came over, accompanied by no less than 5 bodyguards. There are also professional security personnel around who look like passers-by. On each trip, Orlov was accompanied by more than a dozen people. These people are his die-hard fans who are willing to die for him, and he spends a lot of money every year to support them. The so-called high price is not just about paying salaries, but also about arranging everything for these bodyguards, from housing to family, children's schooling, and parents' medical insurance. Everything is arranged properly, which allows people to work for him regardless of the consequences. As someone who had mined blood diamonds in Africa and had warlords hold weapons to his head, he understood that everyone in this world is equal, because life is only once. You gave away 120 million gold without a word. Orlov came to stand beside John. He subconsciously took out a cigarette, glanced at John, put it away, and complained, "You're more generous with your money than your father." John put the last bite of croissant into his mouth, took a sip of milk and said lightly, "That's a windfall, Olaf." "That's gold," Orlov said bitterly. "I'd rather give you $120 million. How can arms dealers not feel distressed when it comes to hard currency like gold? All currencies are given their value by the countries behind them, but gold is different. As a rare metal, it is itself a strategic item for various countries. Many electronic products require gold for assembly. No one would think that there is too little of this. You have something more precious than gold." John raised his hand and took out a purple crystal, raising an eyebrow and saying, "Energy is more precious than gold. God, could you please not be so blatant with this thing?" Orlov nervously put the crystal into his pocket and whispered, I can't let Stark Industries know my hand. He already knows. What? Orloff held his forehead helplessly. My dear John, you can't always be so honest. Sometimes lies can make your life happier. Come on, give it to me. How many more treasures like this are there? After saying that, Orloff was eager to search John's pockets. John slapped Orloff's hand away, placed the cup in the hands of a nearby bodyguard, and said casually, "Tell me your news. You won't forget about the equivalent exchange, will you, Orloff?" Upon hearing this, Orloff looked around and said, "You should know who you are dealing with, kid." "That guy is not easy to deal with," Orloff invited John to his car. "That guy is called Kingpin. On the surface, he is a businessman, but in fact, he manages the underground forces in Hell's Kitchen." "Yes, you heard me right," Orloff said, pouring a glass of champagne as he got into the extended Lincoln, which was surrounded by bodyguards. "That guy controls Hell's Kitchen. Even the hotel system can't intervene too much. When your father first convened the 12 factions of the High Table, that guy wasn't on it. Later, he didn't know how to operate and took over the position that belonged to New York." Handing the champagne to John, Orloff hesitated. "Are you really an adult? Forgive me, your face is even more youthful than my brother's when he was in high school." John took the champagne and said, "It seems his ambition is not difficult to see." "Of course, the guy wants to dominate New York," Orloff said. "I doubt he wants to run for mayor either." With your father's arrival in New York, Kingpin began to become active. He wanted to replace your father. Orloff poured himself another glass, took a sip of champagne, shrugged and said, "He obviously underestimated your father. Your father had to maintain the balance of this high table. He couldn't make one leg too short, nor could he make the other too long," Orloff said. "Balance and order, that's why your father was able to get the government to acquiesce in the existence of the hotel system." After saying that, Orloff held out his hand and said, "Give me the thing." "That's all." John looked at Orloff in surprise. "You're just going to introduce me? What else?" Orloff was also puzzled. "If I had evidence that could bring down that guy, I would have taken down Kingpin long ago." "That makes some sense but not much." John took out a bag and handed it to Orloff. It was full of purple crystals. That was the original form of the magic crystal, and this bag was enough for the reactor experiment. Orloff opened the bag and took a look, grinning from ear to ear. "I'm not very involved in the hotel system," Orloff finally advised John, "but Kingpin isn't the only one at the high table who covets your father's position." John nodded and got out of the car. "Give the champagne to the bodyguard from before and take back your glass." He looked at the bodyguard's Asian face and asked in surprise, "What's your name?" "Danny." The man's face was stern, giving John a sense of familiarity. Orloff said, "This is Danny, a fighter I hired from an underground fighting arena. Don't look at his short stature, he is the strongest among my bodyguards. Before he met me, he was raised like a dog." Danny remained expressionless and paid no attention to Orloff's comment that he had been treated like a dog before. Or maybe it's because of his upbringing that he doesn't have much time to vent his emotions. John touched his chin. This man looked a bit like a kung fu superstar in his previous life. Queens is the largest borough in New York City and borders Brooklyn. John strolled along the streets, which were not as luxurious as those in Manhattan. But just as there are rich and poor people everywhere, there are also rich people driving luxury cars here. John was strolling down the street with a camera in his hand. But his camera is a little special. It's a camera from the magical world. He pressed the shutter button on the leafless trees and stood there quietly, admiring the scenery. "May, look." "Peter, don't fall." A familiar voice reached his ears and John turned his head to look. A familiar pair came into view. Little Peter also spotted the acquaintance and ran over with the leaf he had just caught in one hand and a trophy in the other. "It's you, John. Maybe you could be polite and call me Mr. Wick." John flicked his finger on Little Peter's forehead, leaving a red mark. "Hey!" Little Peter covered his forehead, and John noticed his trophy. "Youth Science and Technology Award?" he asked in surprise. "So you're a future Einstein?" May came over with a smile. "Don't praise him like that, he'll become proud." Looking at John, May asked curiously, "What are you doing here?" "Just wander around," John pointed at the camera, "and take some souvenirs. There's nothing good to keep as a souvenir." May smiled and waved her hand. To her, these are all everyday things. It was like nothing had changed much in all the years she had been here. "Not necessarily." John said lightly, "Unexpected events happen. Perhaps one day, these things we take for granted will make us miss them." "You have a point," May said with a wink. Why don't you leave me a photo? Maybe I'll remember it later. Okay, but remember, wait. Equivalent exchange, May said with a smile. Can that meal be considered an equivalent exchange? Let me think about it. John thought for 3 seconds. Deal. He picked up the camera and pushed little Peter over. Let me think about it. Say eggplant. Eggplant. The two stood beside a busy street, and the trees dropped leaves, one of which landed on little Peter's head with a bright smile. It's August now. It's a good time to visit a Southeast Asian restaurant. In a Thai restaurant, Peter drank Tom Yum Goong soup, which made him exclaim in delight. I'm not sure if it will suit your taste, May said. There are many people in America with allergies who can't stand Thai food. Fortunately, I don't have these concerns. John picked up a spring roll and wondered if it was Thai cuisine. Are you from London? May was curious about John. He had saved little Peter last time. Are there a lot of people like you there? She meant the wizard. It was also the first time she saw a wizard. There are people like me all over the world, John chuckled. Maybe one of your neighbors or classmates is one of them. I know, Ned is it, said little Peter. His grandmother said there's a family gift. Little Peter said distressedly, but I haven't seen him use magic. Maybe that's possible. John didn't deny the child's fantasy, but smiled and said, maybe he will receive a letter from an owl one day. What is that? The acceptance letter from the magic school. John put the spring roll into the bowl and wanted to see what was inside. I used to be an owl deliverer. I'll definitely ask him next time. Peter also imagined in his mind what it would look like if an owl delivered a letter. May watched the two interacting lovingly. These two people really look like father and son. Well, appearance has nothing to do with it. After finishing their meal, they walked out the door and bumped into a fat man who was holding some red clothes that he was going to sell in the store. It's Santa Claus. Peter blurted out. Christmas is still more than 3 months away, but some preparations have already begun. John said wistfully, I don't know if I can celebrate the holidays with my family this year. You can come to my house, Mr. Wick, Peter said excitedly. I can show you the Lego I built. Maybe I'll go over then. John glanced at May and saw that she didn't object. He held out his hand to Peter. When I go, I'll bring you a Christmas present, Peter. It seemed that Peter liked this amazing wizard very much, and he happily shook John's hand. May also extended an invitation to John. We are serious, John. Well, it seems you're quite interested in my Christmas present. John smiled. I'll come over. He said goodbye to the two of them and turned his head to look across the street. An Asian man smiled at him. John met his gaze. Hello, my name is Wenwu.